We have with us, as I told you earlier, an expert, a financial expert. That is Abubakar Omanyo from AVOX. He's a consultant. He's going to be telling us more about what Kenyans should expect. Of course, after the CES for Treasury, and Rotich insisted that the fuel levy has the VAT tax, I beg your pardon, has to be imposed on fuel products. Thank you very much, sir. Kindly just bring us to speed with what we should expect as Kenyans now that it has been official that tax has been imposed, the VAT value-added tax has been imposed on petroleum products.
Thank you so much for having me in this table today. I think what Kenyans really expect is a burden. Kenya are overburdened by these the so-called these taxes. And I want to laud what the parliament did the other day for at least making an amendment so that they can push these levies, the VAT that has been imposed on this levy to 2020. At least what I want the Treasury to do under the leadership of CS, Mr. Rotich, is to wait for the President to receive this amendment so that once he signs to reject or approve, then it is when this can come into effect.
But don't you think that will essentially be, postponing our problems to 2020? What happens then in 2020? Why postpone our problems to 2020? Why don't we just face what it is that the CS thinks will help our economy, stabilize?
But you cannot help the economy stabilize by killing your own people, because you have a lot of taxes that have been imposed on Kenyans, poor Kenyans. They are being pushed by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Kenya is supposed to at least maintain the 150 billion annually as a precautionary measure from the International Monetary Fund. And that's because they are not getting the taxes, they are not collecting the taxes here locally. That's why now they are running outside the country to go get those money. It is a pressure from the International Monetary Fund. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
there was a proposal by a member of parliament just this past week that we should, cap our debt, the kind of borrowing that, the uncontrolled borrowing that the government seems to have gotten itself into. Where we are as a country right now, according to the government, is because of promises that had been made to the IMF, as you say. What do you think? What do you think should be done so that the common citizen can feel that they were, considered in such big decisions? Because now someone like the taxi drivers that we've just talked to today morning are paying for, if I'd call them sins of our government, quote unquote. What do you think should be done by the government so that we can feel that we are more, we are participating in this process, in such kind of processes?
Yeah, I think what we need to do, the problem is that when a matter comes to Parliament for public participation, people who go there as public are not from the small mwananchi outside there. This should be like a very national debate that at least even all counties, all people from all counties can come together and discuss the matters of this. What the government should do now to make sure that these burdens on common mwananchi is that at least come down is by cutting on over expenditure, because they are overspending on a misplaced kind of priorities. So what they need to do is to KRA I think the body mandated by the government to collect tax on its behalf. What they are not doing is that they don't have a target, they don't have a way to come up with on how to collect taxes. We have enough taxes here in Kenya. We should not be going outside. If you empower, in fact, it is just about empowering other people. If you empower the Kenyan business people and make sure that all people pay taxes, we are going to cut on some of these things. Yeah.
Well, as you said earlier on, is that you really would like to appreciate what the Parliament at the National Assembly has done.
Yes.
When they tried to, force this to 2020, coming up with amendments. But do you think they are really sincere? Do you think they are very, very honest? Because the CS for Treasury, that's Henry Rotich,
yes,
presented this when he was making his, when he was reading the budget in Parliament.
Yes.
And the only time that I saw members of Parliament, start murmuring is when there was that the Robin Hood tax that was added on, cash transfers of about over 500,000 shillings.
Yes.
Is it sincere for them to come now and say that they want to postpone this, or you think that might just have passed them without their knowledge?
I think what is going on, it is all, politics is all, the 2022 politics is also in this kind of, because I was asking myself today, why amend only for 2 years? Because 2020 is just 2 years, a span of 2 years. So why can't you just amend and say that we don't want 16% VAT levied on the fuel for all years? Or if there is something that they must do now, because now it is like the Treasury CS has over, I think over which can I use, they have been overpassed by it is as if Treasury, the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, is the one now who is calling the shots in Kenya. Because if the Parliament passed this amendment, why rush and effect the so-called the fuel levy, the VAT 16%.
But he has a point. Although he does have a point, because the same MPs, clapped for him when he was reading the budget, and that was in it.
But our MPs are always our MPs, but there is something that they're trying to play for 2022 game. When it gets to 2022, then they'll start talking about this as to attract the votes of the common mwananchi who has been suffered by the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And so, because I saw the whole house was united on that front, who's to win or who's to lose if we could have cornered the CS, if the Parliament, the members of the National Assembly could have really cornered the Treasury CS and make those amendments and force them on him? Who's to win, who's to lose in 2020, as you say?
I think the person to lose in 20, maybe let's say in 2020, is the Treasury, because the Treasury is that they have pressure. The Treasury is under pressure to raise these funds. In fact, it just want to make other people happy by killing its own people. You cannot kill yourself to make another person's happy. So what I was thinking, going forward, members of Parliament, what they did the other day, yes, they did it, but nothing has come out of it, a clear fact from it. Because if you say it is 2020, it's just 2 years. Mm-hmm. There is something that they're trying to hide from the common mwananchi. Because, the MPs don't pay, they don't buy fuel like us. They have cards. No, like Rotich has a card. The fuel he's using is just the government's fuel. So it doesn't have that that burden that a common person, like a tax person, the one is saying that it is so difficult.
So we're supposed to be producing our own, fuel. Talk about Turkana, the government, yes, through its EOPS program, the early oil transportation program. What now? What are the options that we have on the table? Should we keep paying dearly for such high cost of fuel? What are the options that we have when we start now producing our very own fuel?
I don't think if common mwananchi have another option, because when the government says that is final. And in fact, I've just come to realize that the so-called handshake has really brought pain for Kenyans. Honestly, it has really brought pain for Kenyans.
So you're saying whether we have our own oil from Turkana or not, nothing is going to change?
We still have it, and it is they just added the VAT 16% while having this year of ours. If we can now produce this fuel, the oil that you are producing, it is supposed to be allocated at least for the country, for the domestic usage of the country, and maybe the one for exportation. Maybe from there we can get somewhere, but as far as I'm concerned, no.
So from where you sit as a financial expert and probably also as a political expert, you're saying that the handshake has really brought this on us. Anything else that you see, shooting its price up? Do you think the government is hoping to gain more taxes from other sectors apart from, the fuel industry?
No. In fact, I just wanted to clarify on the issue of the handshake and the way we are suffering. Mm-hmm. Before, when the Right Honorable Raila Odinga had not shaking hands with the president. At least he used to come up, call a press conference, and quash some of this, the so-called VAT, maybe, let's say the total or the general view on how things have been skyrocketing from one item to another item. If Raila will not have shaken the hand with the president, at least things will have been different. But now no one can talk about the problems that common mwananchi is facing.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Abubakar, for that. Now,